I think where I left off, I just shared the story of my first encounter with Jesus. And just to kind of give a little recap, or if somebody's just starting here, I want to say the reason I'm sharing a couple stories of my encounters with Jesus and how that relates to my journey from Christianity to Christ consciousness. I think the encounters with Jesus is one of for people that have had those, that's one of the biggest hindrances to moving on from Christianity, because you've had that experience, you've had that encounter, and nothing will shake you from that. And so I just want to say again, I'm sharing some of my encounters to say that I've been there. I understand. I've had them too, and I hold them dear to my heart as well. The second story, I think I said earlier in the last video, but Jesus saved my life, not in the theological sense, where often when we say Jesus saves, there's a theological statement behind that. But when I say that, I mean that literally, that Jesus saved my life. So I'll share that encounter. I'll share that encounter now. So this is the year I was 16, right before I turned 17, and that year was really dark for me. I'm not going to go into all of why that was right now. That's a much longer story, so I guess maybe that's for another video. But the year I was 16 was very dark. It was like there's always this cloud over me. I was very depressed. I was cutting myself. I was suicidal. Not in a good place at all. And got to the point where right before I was about to turn 17, I was making the decision if I was going to end my life or run away from my family. And I don't even know what, but things were just in a really dark spot for me. So while I'm thinking, like, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? The thought came to me, maybe the remembrance, I should say, came to me that there were lots of verses in the Bible, lots of places in the Bible where it says basically if we know Jesus, then we'll have peace and we'll have joy, we'll have rivers of living water flowing out of us, statements like that. And I was like, I don't have any of that. And I was like, I'm a Christian, but I don't feel any peace, I don't feel any joy, I don't feel anything like that. And just this thought came to me, have you really given Jesus everything? Like, have you given him all of your energy, all of your love? Have you given him your best to know him? Have you given your best to know him? And I was like, no, if I'm honest, I really haven't, especially this past year. Thinking back, so that past year I really was kind of doing things my own way, was not focused at all in trying to get to know Jesus during that year. I was still going to church, doing all the church stuff, right? The church I was in, going to Bible studies, doing all the stuff you're supposed to do. Didn't really have much of a choice either at the time, still living with my parents, but I was doing all that stuff, but just in my own heart, my own energy, my own time, I was not at all trying to get to know Jesus. And so this thought came to me while I'm thinking, like, what am I going to do? Like, am I going to end my life or what? Like, hey, give Jesus a legit chance in your life. Like, actually try to get to know him. So that's what I did. It ended up being a week. I did not plan it that way, but it ended up being a week where I would just get up in the middle of the night and pray for hours. And I wasn't praying like fancy, like Christian prayers or anything like that. I was literally just talking to Jesus like I'm talking to you right now. Just sitting there, looking at a fire and just like, Jesus, this is what's going on right now. can you fix this? Can you change my parents? Can you fix this thing in my life? And I had all this stuff, and it was just a conversation, almost talking out loud to him. And by the end of that week, I had really gotten to a place of where I felt that I was actually connecting to him when I was talking, and that I had a sense too that he was hearing me, and that there was one thing that he wanted me to do, and if I kind of did like this symbolism of the step that he gave to me, that everything would change for me. And so I took, again, I didn't plan it to be a week, but it ended up being a week. So that last day, it was a Sunday, and it was the first time I was like, I'm gonna fast today because I really want to I was like, I'm gonna give him my everything, give him my all. And so this was the first time that I voluntarily chose to fast. Not part of what the church was doing, not part of what my family is doing or whatnot, but just of my own will, my own energy. I want to kind of take a day where I'm not eating and focused out on giving that energy, that love to Jesus. So I did that, and that evening, that was when I felt like Jesus was saying, hey, there's this thing I want you to do, and it involved some stuff that I felt like he wanted me to tell my parents, basically to reconcile with them over some things, to be honest about some things, and I really didn't want to do that. I remember negotiating with Jesus. I was like, maybe when I'm 25, I can shoot them an email and be like, hey, there's all this stuff and blah blah blah. And he's like, no, go do it now. And so I was like, all right. I said I'd give him a real chance, so let me give him a chance. Let me go do this. Let me go do what I think he's leading me to do. And that's a completely different video that I do not have time to go into, to break down that whole situation of what I said and why I think I was supposed to say it, etc. That'll be another video. But I made the decision, I'm going to do that. And I remember when I made that decision to follow that intuition is the word I would use now, but in Christian terms, maybe you'd say the prompting of the Holy Spirit, or whatever. But when I made that decision to follow what I felt like Jesus was telling me to do, and I got up to go to it, and instantly everything in my life changed. I still remember that moment to this day. It's been wow, it's been a long time since then, right? Almost 17 years later now. But I remember that moment really clearly. Everything became crystal clear for me, 4K almost. If you're watching something in 480 and then on YouTube and it's kind of blurry, and then you switch it to 4K and it's crystal clear. It was like my life went into 4K suddenly. It was like that cloud that was always over me, it just went away. There was all this peace that came flooding into me. I had joy that I could not remember having for the longest time. That just came into my life as well. And there's this verse in the Bible. I think I still remember it. I think it's in 1st or 2nd Peter, and it went something like, even though you don't see him, you know him and are filled with an inexpressible and glorious joy. And I can say honestly, I felt that. It wasn't fantasy. I wasn't making it I literally felt going through my body. And that, for me, set the trajectory of my spiritual journey for the next definitely for the next decade of my life. That set the trajectory and the intensity of the next decade or so of my life in my spiritual journey, because I knew that he had changed my life. All the depression was gone, all of the sadness, all of the frustration, everything. It was just gone in an instant. And I knew it was because I had given my energy to him, I'd given my heart to him, I'd followed the promptings of what I felt that he wanted me to do, even when it was hard. And so I was like, Jesus, I'm all yours. Looking at my time. So yeah, that set the tone for the next almost decade, if not more, of my spiritual journey. And during that journey, after that, I was evangelizing. I'd go out on the streets. It was right before I turned 17, so I'd go out and tell other people about Jesus, because I had this experience and I wanted people to know like what Jesus did for me. I remember going to different churches, sharing my story of this, we called it my testimony. I remember telling the story in different places. I remember, again, going out to like skate parks and telling people about Jesus. I remember when I was, my college years, and leading up to that in my college years, every morning for like hours, I would get up just about every morning and pray a couple hours every morning. Sometimes at 5 o'clock, sometimes at 4 o'clock. I gave everything to Jesus, because I knew He'd change my life. I knew He'd save my life, and I gave Him everything. One of the another big significant thing that I still kind of pull lessons from to this day, and it's always top of my mind, is a 40-day fast that I did. And I'm not sharing this to brag or anything. I don't see much value in it in a spiritual sense of that makes me a better person or anything like that. But I'm sharing that to say that was the level of devotion and love that I had for Jesus. And also, I wanted to be like Him. And I was always drawn to the ministry of Jesus, where He would heal people. And that was something that was so significant to me. It actually still is. And I'll have another video on this, but why I've gotten into Reiki. I got my Reiki certification as a Reiki healer. And my understanding now is that that's the energy that Jesus was working with when He was healing people. But that's another video. But I was always drawn to His love for people and His healing ministry that He had. And so I remember thinking, if Jesus, before He went out and started healing people and opening blind people's eyes and people that couldn't hear, so they could hear all these things that He did, if He did a 40-day fast, well, I should do that too, because I want to be like Him and I want to get this power, so let me do it. And so I did that. 40 days, 40 nights, water only. And at that time, I didn't get the kind of healing power that I was looking for. And that too is another video I can break down, my whole experience of that 40-day fast and my takeaways from that and how it shaped my spiritual journey. But the point of me sharing it right here at this point is to say that I gave everything to Jesus based on these encounters, the one when I was 6 and then right before 16, right before I turned 17. Those encounters just were enough to change my life, and I had so much love and devotion. Would literally do anything for Jesus. That's why I did those 40 days. I wanted to be like Him. And so time's up here, but my next video is going to be how I moved from Christianity to Christ consciousness and what that means for me and my understanding of that.